Hi, wee Bob here, and in this dragon video we are moving on to talk through drawing the head of the dragon from the side. In last week's video I had finished with this dragon head, but I wasn't overly happy with it and decided to make this dragon look more ferocious. The reference this week is this dragon head, again taken from ArtStation. It is another 3D model image, and I'll put the artist's name on the screen and leave a link to their ArtStation. So looking at this reference, you may be able to see a few basic shapes. A cylinder for the neck, and at the start of the head, a triangle half pyramid shape for the brow, a right angle for the snout, and then a big triangle for the mouth, followed by this roof of a house type shape, and then another roof shape back to the main cylinder. We can then add some triangles for the teeth. I have made a few marks for where the eye would be and then the nostril. Now, I have spoke many times about the blending brush, and if we use a blender we can make all these blocky type shapes into something more natural by moving to S shapes and C shapes. Sorry if you're sick of hearing me talk about those. Blending all of this together and we can get what sort of looks like a ferocious dragon head, and it gives us the start point for actually doing our dragon head. Time for us to move on to that head. And I put down those basic shapes that we just discussed as my reference point for starting. If doing this in traditional art style with pencils, we are lightly sketching. If I put my video at 2 times the speed, you can see me sketching out the shapes. I'll speed it up when required when I'm just repeating the same action, and I'll slow the video down when I'm doing something a bit different. My basic first shape looks like a very happy dog, and as you can see I've nailed it. As an artist, this is where you can get a bit dismayed. Looking at your drawing, it's not exactly what you thought it was going to be. But the trick is to keep heading along the path, at least for a bit longer. But there are times we can give up and start again, which I have done many times in the past. So on our reference we can see these flame type shapes, which we can add in. We can use a dabbing of the paints to make a textured shadow. To help our brains to process what we are drawing, it is good to add in features of the eye and nostrils, as it gives us a reference point to work from, to further refine our sketch into a proper drawing. Looking at where light and shadow hit, which is why we want a good reference with strong shadows rather than multiple light sources, as shown in some of these examples on the screen. This is especially true if getting started out, but I will always say art is what you want art to be. We add into our sketch where the teeth are, and although we still have what looks like a big happy dog, it's starting to come a bit more together. There are multiple features of the face that will make it look angry, sad, happy, and all the other emotions that we can think of. Perhaps that's a subject for another video on another day. When refining our sketch, we can erase parts we don't like and keep shaping that part until it looks like what we think it should be looking like, what we're looking for. At this point in the drawing I am happy with the overall shape, and it's time to start going into the details and refining to the next level. We first focus on the teeth. In this example, and when looking at my reference and other references of dragons or dinosaurs, we will see that we get this basic cylinder shape with a curvy cone at the end. If we think in 3D shapes, it will help us with our lighting a bit later in the process. I've shown this in a different layer just to go through the shapes that you should be thinking about when it comes to the dragon's teeth. The tongue is another curved cone, flattened slightly on the top, and we will get to that a bit later. The tutorial layer is now removed and we start sketching in for real this time with our teeth, keeping in mind the cylinders and the curvy cones at the end. Try to make the teeth look a bit different, as a few times in my examples I suffered from making them too equally spaced, too uniform. Thinking about the cylinder, we can add the shading, either from the reference we have or from thinking about where the light would hit and where the shadow would fall. As the teeth enter the gum, there is this very dark half moon shape that we can see in our reference, and so we want to add that in. Just to pop up and say while we're talking about this dragon head, there'll be more dragon videos, so if you want to, hit the subscribe button, get notified, and if you could hit the like button, that would be much appreciated. Thank you, and we'll carry on. The great thing about drawing dragons is that we don't need to be pinpoint accurate, and our details are dragony. They just need to look dragony. That's not even a word, but you get what I mean. This just needs to look like a dragon to what we know dragons to be. We also in many cases do not want to draw a pixel perfect version of our reference. And that's especially true because you don't just want to be a copycat artist, you want to think in your head, these are the shapes I want to draw, this is how I shade them, and this makes it different from what I am looking at. It's mine, it's my drawing, it's not somebody else's drawing.
I want to go with you.
Hey, I told you, didn't I? You're not coming home with me. I live alone. My swamp. Me. Nobody else. Understand?
The nostril area of the dragon juts out from the main body of the nose. If you think about it like a donut with a black hole in the middle, as illustrated, it might help. The light, if from above, will hit the top of the nose with the shadow next. When the light then hits the upper part of the inside of the nostril, which is quite a mouthful to say, but as you can see on the screen, we need to think, how does the light hit each of these surfaces to make this nostril shape? At this point I have been working on the main head for about 37 minutes, just based on my recording time. It's just to give you an idea of understanding that art takes time. I've talked about that many times, art takes time. We move on from the teeth for a period of time and add in the light hitting the top of the tongue and the shadow falling as the tongue curves underneath. On my reference, we can see an area which I would say looks like a row of rugged rocks. To show this, we can consider looking at these as cuboids. I love that word, cuboids. It's like Zomboid the game. I don't know why. Cuboid. Where light hits each side slightly differently. If you're into digital art, a great, very much free program to get hold of is Blender. I have been using Blender for years. Here is Blender, and we can make our 3D shapes and set up light sources, and this can really help us understand the values that would exist. Above those little rugged rocks is the skin that connects the jaw. In our example, we've changed the look of this into individual shapes that look like tendons. We add details to the top of the jaw just looking at the reference and breaking it down into those simple shapes, the cylinders, the triangles, the pyramids, the cones. After this point, it is all about the small refinements. We are trying to tighten up those details, smoothing out using the blender where we need more curved surfaces and trying to get hard edges to show a more right angled change to the skin, as with the rugged area we talked about a minute ago. Just to focus in on the eye, in our reference, there are actual little spiky pyramids above the eye, but I decided to make them more square little rocks, again with the light hitting the top and then a hard change to a darker shade. While you see the details being added to the dragon head, I will put a list on the screen of the brushes that I used primarily, but it is usually just a conceptual brush and a blender brush and then some textured brushes just to add in those little details. The time taken to draw this head was just over 1 hour, and we could spend a lot longer just tuning up those details. As we're going for a larger piece here with seeing the body and having a background, this usually means less details required. The next video on dragons will be focused on the eye and really detailing the head further. It'll be up in the corner if I've produced it. Otherwise, check out one of my other videos. Thanks so much for watching, and Wee Bob is out. Bye!